Hello, loved ones. Welcome to the Whose Life Is It Anyway podcast. We made this for you who are now ready to help create a world that works for everyone. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. We are very fortunate today to be talking to Amber Hill, and we are going to explore very much returning to roots and taking responsibility for everything.
Wow, we haven't been doing that, have we? At all?
No, there's such a lack of self-responsibility in the culture.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you have moved out into a small homestead with your family, and you're doing a lot of beautiful work with nature, but also for your family. So how did it look, the process that took you out there?
I was just always kind of interested in alternative ways of living. I would actually take this all back to a big psilocybin experience when I was 16 that just kind of
That
opened
early?
my eyes that early. It was my first one, and we totally overdid it. And it was amazing. And I just kind of saw through the culture that I had been raised in. I was totally raised on processed food, watching television constantly, and compulsory schooling. And I mean, I had loving parents, and it was beautiful and all that. But by my early 20s, I was really seeking something different. And so I took my final ever at UC Davis, and I drove to the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op immediately afterward and filled out an application for their wellness department. I was like, I don't want anything to do with academia. I don't want like a fancy job. I just want to work as a clerk and learn about herbalism and healing. And through that year in that job, I did learn about those things and food and eating organic and these really simple things. And I met my herb teacher, Cammie McBride, that year as well. And got pregnant at the end of the year, had an unassisted home birth in 2006 when that was not really a thing people were talking about. I found a couple websites online at the time, and then ended up doing an apprenticeship with Cammie when my baby was a baby. That just brought me even deeper into my interest in herbal healing and connecting with the natural world, and moved up here where I live now in Nevada County, which is in California. It's in Northern California, and it's a rural county. It's beautiful. We have the gorgeous Yuba River flowing through here. It's the traditional homelands of the Nisinan people, lots of firs and pines and oaks and manzanitas, and it's just a really special place. And became a single mom, struggled, but the whole time I was making herbal medicines for myself and my daughter, and slowly started selling them on Etsy. I had a vintage clothing shop on Etsy, and 10 years ago now, in 2012, I was like, maybe I'll make some extra St. John's wort oil this year and throw it up alongside these beautiful dresses. And it sold. And the following year, I got together with Owen, who is now my husband. And he was this amazing gardener, which blew my mind. Like the second time we ever hang out, he came over with, we were probably hungover the next day too, I'm sure. We drank a lot of beer back then, but he came over with like a chicken and all these veggies that he had grown himself and cooked me dinner. And I was like, okay. Yes. And then we got pregnant a couple years later, which was unexpected. And I just, during that pregnancy, I was really motivated to buy a house. My mom had just died in a car accident, which was also very unexpected and terrible. And but it gave me just enough money for a down payment, which I never thought I would have. And so we bought 1 acre. It's like a 1,000 square feet, really small house for 4 people. But it has just allowed our vision to expand for sure. And making medicines with plants that we grow and raising our kids in this way. And then I started my podcast, Medicine Stories, to further these conversations about remembering what it is to be human upon the earth is my tagline for the podcast.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful tagline.
And it is what we're in the midst of, all of us. We need to remember, and people start to remember. And I see the first step is this longing to return to the land.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it called me, and I talk a lot about, I once heard the herbalist Stephen Herod Buhner say that, because he would teach these large classes, and he would ask the students what brought you here. And for some people it was, oh, I've just, I've been communing with plants since I was a child. For some people it was, a plant saved my life. Modern medicine was failing me and I found herbalism and it saved me. But the vast majority of people are like, I don't really know. I just feel called to return to these old ways of living.
Yeah.
And that was me. And I just think that's so many people right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can see it in the numbers. Like I've said in many of these interviews, we talked to Joel Salatin, and he was talking about like how the prices of small homesteads just in the last year have gone, like they have doubled. It's become like really, really difficult many places to find land, because so many suddenly get this awakening and wanting to go back, and we have the same longing to, and many of our friends do. So something is, there's a new wave going on of something. So
yeah, it's become so extreme that we need to go the other way, and maybe sometime we can find the balance in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
was it difficult? Like it sounds to me like it was quite easy to just, like, you just went with your heart and started doing these things, but like was it challenging in any way, telling your people that your family that yeah, thank you for the education, now I'm going to do something completely different?
Not really. I'm really blessed that both of my parents were, they just always accepted me. And I mean, my dad for sure would be kind of stern and like, yeah, just, went through all these years of college and why would you, but
Yeah.
not his life. And my mom as well would be a little hesitant at first, but they totally just supported and loved me. And now it's like so paid off in my life. I was just thinking about it this morning. I was like, God, I wish my mom was still here. It's been over 6 years now. And I'm like, God, she would be so happy and so proud to see that all my years of struggle, but following my heart no matter what, led me to a place where I have a really beautiful life and what I always dreamed of.
So you were talking about
I just want that. Can I have it now, please?
Yes, please. It'll come soon enough. So you're talking about like this taking responsibility for your lineage, your ancestry. You're looking to the past, but you're also looking to the future with your children and what you want to give them. It seems like a very like an intentional way of living. Has that always been there?
No, I got pregnant young, and that was also an unexpected pregnancy. They were both very happy surprises. And I just stumbled my way through, I don't know, many years after becoming a mother in an unhealthy relationship and totally broke. I'm trying to make things work out. But again, I was practicing herbalism the whole time. And I really have seen over the last 5-10 years that, because it's remembering what it is to be human upon the earth. A lot of people start by being called to ancestry and end up being interested in earth medicine and reconnecting with the earth. And a lot of people are called to herbalism and eating better food and end up interested in who came before them and what they can learn from their ancestors. So there's just been so much overlap between those two realms and many other things in the last few years that I'm seeing so many people interested in. And like I've said, I was lucky to have loving parents and I was close to ancestors on both sides. I knew 4 of my great grandparents.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, very lucky. And all 4 of my grandparents. One is still living. My mom's mom just turned 100.
Oh yeah, we saw
that picture. She looks so young. She's like
70.
70 or so.
It's amazing. Yeah, she's very vibrant. She's sharp and funny.
That's so amazing.
It is. I'm so lucky to have her, especially since my mom is gone.
Yeah.
So I followed the call again. I followed the call of my ancestors, and about 10 or 12 years ago really started with genealogy research, which I think is what a lot of people think of when they think about ancestral
Mm.
connection. And then in time, as I was also connecting more with the land around me and the plants, realizing that ancestral reverence and connection can be so much bigger than just genealogy and research. Um, and then, yeah, kids. I mean, for me, mothering is an act of ancestral reverence. And I mother them as best I know how, as a thank you to my ancestors who made my life possible and who made their lives possible. And I heard this beautiful thing once, that if we're wanting to be in ancestral connection, we need to be doing things that our ancestors would recognize. So working with the earth, cooking food, and parenting is absolutely something that they would recognize. As opposed to like scrolling Instagram or, whatever these
Yeah.
modern day things that
Yeah.
they wouldn't recognize because it wasn't part of their lives. So I just, yeah, I mean, sometimes I think about it in the moment as I'm like snuggling my 5.5-year-old who's still very snuggly. I just try to think of the ancestors I've known and the ones whose names or stories I know, even if I didn't know them, even if we didn't overlap physically, and just send like all that love and all that blessed DNA through my love into her.
I mean, and what you're talking about, it shows up very much in what we see if you present it in where we can see you online. So it's a very congruent picture. It's not like something that's just being put up there as a sort of like a poster. It seems like very genuine and from the heart. So it's very beautiful and genuine. So you do these different types of plant medicine. You also work with you work with psilocybin still and doing things like that?
Yeah, somewhat, a lot less since I had kids, although my recent podcast episode number 86 with Michaela De La Mico was all about integrating psychedelics and motherhood,
Yeah.
including pregnancy, postpartum, the whole thing, which really blew my mind and a lot of other people's too. Because like a lot of people, I kind of was like, well, I have kids now, I should probably be done doing drugs.
Well, there's a
um,
difference between doing drugs and then
there it
working with in theogens.
is. Yes.
And like I've had quite some experiences with it, and for me, it really, really helped me. Like it brought me out of a lifelong depression, but at the same time, it's not something that I recommend to people because the experiences I had were so overwhelming and out of this world, and like seeing, like having everything just turned on its head and being like it going into different realities that were more real than what is here, going to hell in this reality at the same time. It's a very, very big mind. It messes with your mind. So how do you work with it, and what has it been doing for you?
Well, so I haven't had very many experiences. I'm more microdosing,
Okay.
and I love that. But there's quite a number of people in my area who I'm becoming aware of who are guides.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious for you, was it psilocybin, and do you feel like you had the proper mindset and like outside setting for meditating?
The first, I've only done psilocybin once, but that was probably the, let's say, worst experience I've had. But the setting was also, it was not proper. I went into it with I was already anxious going into it, and then the setting was not proper. I don't feel like the persons involved with it did actually know what they were doing, and they were like, it was a crazy thing going on outside. So that definitely brought me into some very anxious and very, very uncomfortable places.
You're
Uh,
extremely impressionable, and
yeah,
if set and setting and things beyond that too, but just go back to Leary's original set and setting idea. If
yeah,
those aren't right, it can definitely be so hard. I had a I don't know, what is time on mushrooms, but I
yeah,
had a good period of time during my 16-year-old amazing experience that was absolutely terrifying.
yeah.
But then I wrote it out, and then it became the most beautiful, amazing awakening experience.
Wow.
Yeah, it definitely woke me up to many, many things in this and other realities, and I'm glad I did it. I don't think I'll be going back, at least where I am right now. But I am glad. I'm truly
Yeah.
glad I did it, because it changed me for the better, and it also made me realize some things about both me and this world that has made it like so much more livable, made me more brave, made me face some things in myself. And there's still many things I need to work on myself that I would not have realized. So it's been a very compressed transformation process, having this encounter with ayahuasca mainly,
Hmm.
but also what happened back then. But it's definitely something I would recommend people do with very, very large amounts of care. And
Yeah, you need to have respect for it. It's not something to
it's
play
not
with.
recreational at
No.
all.
Yeah, and this is what I tell my teenager,
Yeah,
like, I hope you do have beautiful psychedelic experiences in your life, but these are not party drugs. Don't do
no.
them in a big group setting. Do them where you feel totally safe and held. And
Yeah, do it with intention.
Mm.
yes.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I never tried anything
No,
like
but
that.
you fell in the pot as a baby.
I fell in the pot as a baby, yeah. So I'm not allowed to.
She's already open, so
Yeah.
Wow. You
yeah.
remember that, or you were like a baby?
She
I
was talking to God on a
yeah,
regular basis.
when I was a child, yeah.
Mm.
And my sister, she's much older than me. She says, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "I'm talking to God." So what do you talk about? I don't know, stuff. I just ask and he answers. And I must have been like 3 or 4 at that time. So yeah, I know stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people don't need the plant medicines to get there.
No.
Do you have any like visions where you want to take this life and that what you're doing with and for the earth where you are right now? Do you want to expand in some way, or is it enough being where you are and showing other people what's possible? What is your
Yeah.
vision?
That's a question I'm actively asking myself right now. So we've been here for 6 years now, and I have wanted to keep the business, the podcast, the medicines, not small, but I have not wanted to expand. I didn't feel ready. Like, that's just going to stress us out. There's been times where my husband is like, we can expand the gardens and plant more and make more medicine and sell more. And I'm like, we're good. We're good. Let's
Mm,
not overextend just yet.
mm,
Because I've seen people do that, once their business starts to become successful, then they just like start shooting for the moon and overdo it and
mm,
damage themselves. The stress, financially, emotionally. But yeah, I mean, yesterday was the equinox, and we were both just kind of like, okay, we're feeling good. We're feeling that springtime energy. Like, what's next? I don't know. I think it's important to think about legacy and how you want your children and descendants to remember you. But then today in our online world, we're all leaving digital footprints. So it's how anyone who comes across you is going to remember you, right?
mm,
If I died tomorrow, I would feel very happy with the work I've done, and knowing that people far into the future can find these podcast episodes and maybe they'll help them in some way. I've always been a journaler, always.
mm.
And I go back and read some of my entries from high school and my early 20s and pre-social media, early days of the internet. And I wrote a number of times, like, I hope that someday after I die, someone can find my journals and feel less alone in the world.
Wow.
And
That's
then,
so
like,
sweet.
Yeah.
yeah, blogging and social media came along, and I'm like, oh, I can make those connections now. You know, I
Yeah.
can write and share my heart now and help and connect with people. I just want my kids to think I was a good person and
Aw.
to feel how I loved them so that they can pass that love on to their kids and on and on and on.
Okay.
That's beautiful. I wish I did better.
You've done the best you could under the circumstances, my dear.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I have a lot of mom guilt, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I do too. I do too. All the time. Oh my gosh. This was like the focus of my therapy sessions for a long time. Um, but I come back to that, like, you know, you asked what the vision is, and that
Yeah.
is my highest vision for my work in this lifetime. And I watched my grandmother transform her family story, and she wasn't loved as a child. It was a bad situation, and she didn't really know how to love. But when she had my mom and her two older brothers, she was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to change the story. I'm going to love them. And then my mom just was the most loving, amazing person ever. And I've seen other people do that too. You know, I've seen people choose love. I know it sounds so cliche and people like to brush it off, but it's all love. Love is everything. My website is mythicmedicine.love, and I'm like
Yeah.
unabashed about that.
It
Well-
is everything. It is the only thing we need, right? If you don't get it.
According to John Lennon and Beatles.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he said it.
Yeah.
If we don't get that love, everything will go wrong. It will just be feel bad, and we will get sick, and we will hurt each other, and it is the one thing, right? And this is now we need to remember that and actually do it and love ourselves and love our neighbor, and actually do it, and not just write about it or sing about it, but actually going out and showing it.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
doing that through the work you're doing. That's so beautiful.
I'm curious. I want to hear some of the healing stories, if you have one or two of those with the plant medicine.
Sure. Yeah. This one's my favorite. So it was when my now 15-year-old was a baby. She was still nursing. She was like maybe 1 or 2 at the time. And I had a lot of severe ear infections as a child.
Okay.
Pretty frequent, like a few times a year. And to this day have, I don't know about hearing issues, but like there's a lot of scar tissue in there and water will build up. I have to use those water drops, and I probably actually do have like somewhat filtered hearing. And so, okay, she was a baby. Violets were blooming outside. I was very new to herbalism, but I loved violets. Violet is her middle name. And I was reading a book. I forget what it was, but there was this plant meditation in it where I think maybe this was my first time ever doing like a guided meditation type thing too. Imagine in your mind shrinking yourself down and like climbing inside the plant. It was something like that. And then, I don't know, I think maybe you asked for a message, something. All I know is I came out of that with the message, put me in your ears. And violet was the plant that I chose, you know? And I was like, okay, I've never heard about using violet in the ears. I don't know about this, but I picked some violet flowers and I think I just steeped them in olive oil. Olive oil is the base that we use for all of our herbal oils. And a month later, decanted, strained it out, and I put some oil in my ear, and then my daughter needed to nurse. And so we got in the rocking chair and I was nursing her and she was falling asleep. So I was singing some sort of lullaby. Or I used to always make up songs, I remember, when I nursed her. And suddenly, as I was singing, obviously like hearing the tone in my own head, the ear that the oil had just been in like popped and heat rushed through that side of my head. And I
Yeah.
could hear my voice in a way I had never heard it before. Something that had been stuck in there for a long time just opened and released. And
Wow.
I was crying, tears streaming down my eyes, but I was trying not to interrupt her falling asleep.
Yeah.
So I was continuing to sing the song and like, everything's normal.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you just saw, head on over to whoselifeisitsummit.com/podcast, where you can find full-length episodes as well as in audio format, and we do a lot of other cool stuff. You can hang out with us and other like-minded individuals who want to create a world that works for everyone, and we do that on our platform where we can chat, and we have Q&As and exclusive interviews as well. So there's so much to get over there. So come on over and play with us.